In 2023, the cost to U.S. businesses for cybercrime was $8 trillion.
Wow.
By the end of 2025, that $8 trillion will be $10.5 trillion. That would make cybercrime dollars the third largest economy in the world behind the U.S. and China.
Wow.
Right. And so it's frustrating when I talk to really smart people that run successful businesses when they say, I've been lucky so far. I don't think I'm really at risk. And I find myself more worried about their security than they are.
Wow. Goodness. So what got you into this business of sales and biz dev and, all the things? I mean, what would you say? How would you call yourself and describe yourself? What do people pay you to do, Mike?
Build relationships.
Okay.
So I would start off by saying there's a significant difference between sales and business development.
Yeah.
Sales is transactional. Business development is the actionable word is development. You're developing a relationship with somebody that gets nurtured over time, and you're building, first they got to like you, then they got to trust you, and then you're hopefully down the road, they're, going to do some business with you, right? Because when you walk in the door, they were not wringing their hands waiting for you to show up with whatever it is your company does.
Yeah, they'd never say, thank God Mike's here.
Exactly, because they've got somebody just like me that they've been doing business with for 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you don't just flip the switch and boot that relationship.
Right.
And that whole dynamic is a interesting narrative and study in human psychology. It can be aggravating. It can be incredibly exhilarating when you really get to it and it's successful. More times than not, it's not, because you've got human emotion involved in it. But I've been doing business development since I got out of college, more years ago than I care to count. And it's mostly been in the technology field. We put moats around people's castle to keep the bad guys out.
Right.
And when they pole vault in, we're really good at getting them out quickly and getting revenue restarted.
Yeah.
Which is a non-technical way of talking about all the technical stuff that we do to protect people and mitigate business risk.
I want to talk about what you do first, and then I want to get back to biz dev and sales.
Okay,
there's got so many questions about what you think about the differences between the two.
Okay.
But let's talk about your company that you represent first. A lot of times people don't think they need you. And usually that's before the catastrophe happens. There's a lot of people that are just ignorant to all the bad things that can happen. There's just so many bad actors that are out there just waiting to infiltrate, and people think it's not me. Right? Is that one of the big things you come up against? Just people be like, I don't have a problem. I've never had a problem. I've been in business for X amount of years.
Great question. Most of my job in that area is being the chief education officer. Because the business leaders that I run into, they feel they've been lucky so far. 4 businesses on their street have burned down, but they think theirs is fireproof. And on my side of the curtain, I see what these bad actors are doing and how diligent they are at getting inside the construction company or the CPA firm or whatever, and what it does to a firm that's been around for 40 years, and in 2 clicks of a mouse, they're devastated. And my job is to try and educate, advise, and counsel. Here's what the real world's like. And I'll share some stats. We did a seminar recently, and this stunned a lot of the business owners and leadership people. But in 2023, the cost to U.S. businesses for cybercrime was $8 trillion.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, that's 30% of U.S. GDP, 30%. It's projected, I just saw the stats, by the end of 2025, that $8 trillion will be $10.5 trillion. If you turn that into an economy of a country, that would make cybercrime dollars the third largest economy in the world behind the U.S. and China.
Wow.
Right. Now, it's growing at 15% per year, which is faster than any economy's growing globally, period.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing that's striking is that most of the businesses in the U.S. are small and medium businesses, under 400 employees. Every 39 seconds, a small or medium business in the U.S. gets hacked, and the average cost is between $500,000 and $1.4 million.
Wow.
To that business owner. And yet, what I get from them is, I've been lucky so far. My nephew, who runs IT, just bought a new firewall at Best Buy, so I'm good.
What could go wrong, right?
Right, what could go wrong? Or I just put all my stuff in the cloud, I'm protected. Or I'm too small to get hacked. All four of those opinions are incredibly expensive opinions to hold because the bad guys can get to everything, no matter if it's in the cloud, in your server room. And I've seen it way too many times, and I see what the devastation is. And it's not a selling or educating on fear. It's just, here are the facts. It's all about money. These threat actors are well funded, well organized, and they're all pointed at the U.S., and they never sleep. And that's my job. And so it's frustrating when I talk to really smart people that run successful businesses, when they say, I've been lucky so far, I don't think I'm really at risk. And I find myself more worried about their security than they are.
Wow. Goodness. That's incredible. The $10.5 trillion.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not stopping at all.
Yeah. You just got people that's their only job is, poking holes.
Yep.
And finding the most vulnerable and going for it.
24/7, 365. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, man. So when you come into a business, it sounds like sometimes you're having conversations with people that don't even realize there's a problem.
They may realize, there may be that weariness of hearing about cyber security, and they think that they're okay because they've got a firewall. I don't want to get in the weeds, but their IT guy has told them that they've put some things in place.
Yeah.
But when we come in and actually start asking questions, we find out that there are some holes. In my terminology, their back doors open, the kitchen windows open. Those are all risk points to stop them from making money. And that's what we talk about, is where are their risks, how do we mitigate it, or can we eliminate that risk so they can continue to be a thriving enterprise?
How do you overcome objections and get people to see that there is a need, that there's even a problem, for the first thing is, I guess, is the question. And then secondly, how do you have people overcome I already got a guy, I got my nephew, I have, maybe another group that they're not doing what they need to do. But what does that conversation look like when you're talking with people and developing those relationships, like you said?
Great question. I don't try and overcome objections. I give a talk, I think you and I have chatted about this before, where I talk about building relationships, and one of the main tenets of that talk and that process that I use is giving more than I get. And in that tenet is a process that I do in terms of giving information. And in certain cases, in a conversation where somebody says, I'm set, well, I'll ask questions that might cause that gentleman or lady to go, well, maybe not. I'm not as set as I thought I was. The give more than you get is things like I send information. I'm not trying to sell my service. I'm trying to educate them with little bits of information about what's real in this world and how that affects their business, because I've listened actively when we've had a conversation. What's going to stop them from making money or achieve the 3 business goals that they shared with me in the conversation, right? I might send them a book that talks about this. I'll send them some new information that we found in a national group, 3 or 4 national groups that we're part of. Did you know? Boom, 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 boom. Or something that hit the national news that's has a direct correlation to how they run their business and how they might have risk for this. Or simple things. Here are 3 things you could do that cost you no money.
Adding value to people's lives genuinely
Right.
and helping them is so smart.
If you turn the tables, how would you like to be treated, right?
When is a biz dev role appropriate, and when is a sales role appropriate? Because they both exist, right? In the
They
same,
do.
But yeah.
So you pointed to it a little bit when you said B2B versus B2C. B2C is a little bit more difficult to develop relationships. You're getting touches. You're probably using more social media, your website. It's more transactional.
Yeah.
B2B is more relational, and that's why I do the process that I do to build those relationships, because it's not transactional. I'm not one and done kind of stuff here. I want a long-term relationship. Even if 5 years from now they decide that they're moving on to somebody else, I want to be able to shake hands and consider that individual, a friend, a good solid reference for us. That when we did business for him, we did it the right way, and Mike treated us as if we were colleagues.
Love that.
Yeah.
What got you in that frame of mind, that 60% that you had to be a go-giver before you read the book? What were the influences in your life, or what decisions did you make to kind of get you in that mindset of, I need to give more than I get?
I know that God would like me to be a better person. And if you believe in Jesus Christ and God and the Holy Spirit, treating people like you want to be treated is paramount to what I try to do every day. I'm a flawed human being, big time.
We all are.
By 8 o'clock, I've made a boatload of mistakes, but I try to be better every day at it. So that go-giver mentality falls right in line with that. Like, how do you do this the right way for these people? How do you treat them like you want to be treated? And so it's a matter of constantly just getting better at it and getting better at it, and forget what it says on your business card. How should that person be treated in this exchange of information or ideas? And how do you, if you put your arm around their shoulder and said, how can I help?
Love that. And that goes back to that, proving yourself as an expert in the field, showing them, giving them value. That they're just kind of keeping that in their brain.
Right.
And they know, okay, if I have a problem, that's the guy to call. I mean, it might be a conscious thing, but it's definitely a subconscious thing.
Exactly. You'll find with every one of my coffee meetings, the last thing I say is, how can I help you? How can I help you? And, I'd like to get into so-and-so and so-and-so. Let me see if I can do it, or if somebody in my network can do it.
You've helped me with that concept and that idea, because I'd never even thought about that, about the people, in my network that want to be champions of me and what we're doing here at 98 Central. And so I started a list, and I just created a whiteboard of just like, these are the people that, I know that are, in my corner, and that I can help them as well. But just like, it was pretty interesting kind of putting that list together and seeing who those people are. And there are a lot of people there.
striking when you actually, because I track all this, as you've seen.
Yeah.
But in 2022 and 2023, 100% of the business that came to me came through introductions from those 20 core golden COIs. Now, not direct. They introduced me to someone who introduced me to someone, and maybe even farther down the chain. But they're my unpaid sales force. And so it's incredibly valuable because I've got feet on the street thinking about what we do and how we might be able to help people. Think about the coverage you get. Think about the footprint that's out there, thinking about the services and the advice and counsel that we can provide, more than just me picking up the phone and dialing for dollars, right? Even with all the coffees that I have, right?
Sure.
I still get broader coverage.
Yeah. There's such a thing to be underscored here at this point about the value of relationships and building quality relationships, because the gurus say, get the perfect sales funnel, get this thing going and get this hack and, 10 tips to do this thing. And that's not to say some of it doesn't work and some of it, there's a place for everything, I guess. But the fact that 100% of your business came from that army of people and their contacts is just an incredible testament to what can be achieved if you're interested in investing in people and having right relationships.
Right. And it takes work.
Right.
I mean, it's a simple process, but it's a lot of work to stay on top of it, to follow up on it. And it dovetails into a sales funnel, if you will. Like, who are my prospects? Who are my suspects? Who are my prospects? Who are the ones at the bottom of the funnel that actually look like they're at a point where they have pain and they really want better results than they're getting right now? And then who in my 20 can help me get in front of those people? So it dovetails so that you can't just throw away your sales funnel.
Sure.
But how can I use that funnel and leverage my 20 golden COIs to help me get in front of them, rather than me constantly calling them or emailing them? Because it's not 1990 anymore, right? When everybody just dialed like crazy, and it was, you get in a room and you call a list until some poor son of a gun picks up the phone. And that's one of the things that I've learned. You have to pivot your strategies to make yourself more effective.
I love that.
So
I think with the internet, and we can touch more and more people than we ever before. Like, you can do a million people, you could put a post up and a million people could see it, but that's not necessarily a genuine connection with people.
Exactly.
And more, it seems like, I haven't lived 100 years, but it seems like people are wanting that more and more. They're wanting that genuine, real connection with people, and that it's so valuable these days that biz dev and done in the right way is just super effective.
They want to shake your hand. They want to look across the coffee table or the lunch table and see, what do you like?
Yeah.
And people make a judgment, believe it or not, within the first 3 minutes.
Right. Yep.
And how can you do that just on LinkedIn or just in Facebook or whatever social media application you're using?
It's hard. I mean, and it can get you so far.
Yeah.
But you can't just depend on that.
Right.
That can be your only, way of getting progress in your sales. Who is someone that most influential in your life, a mentor who helped you on your journey?
So I would be remiss if I didn't say my wife of 43 years. She's just incredible. Where I am weak, she is strong, and she's got an incredible business mind. She's, without the title, she would be a COO. She's able to parse things that way. Very intelligent, beautiful, all of the things that you would want in a partner. And she helps me parse through details that sometimes I get mired in.
Sure.
There are a couple of bosses that I've had through the years that do a really good job of sort of straining away the bits and pieces of the garbage and getting to what you really should focus on. The boss I have right now, I have incredible respect for. He's really good at just focus on this. He understands. I think he's got a psychology degree. And I know he doesn't, but I think he does. And he knows how to sort of get my engine running on all 8 cylinders. And I had one probably 35 years ago that told me something that I use in my process, and it's called the empty cup mentality that I use every time I go to talk to somebody. And it's I go in and I try to fill that empty cup with brand new information. Even if it's the 60th time that I've talked to you, I try to ask questions that will give me new information that fills that empty cup. And it's incredible how informative and how helpful that thought was, because otherwise I would just glaze over it. If it's the 60th meeting that we had and I was arrogant and said, I know everything about Will, I would never find out that you're looking to open a second studio in Spartanburg, right?
Yeah.
And I would never, know what that meant and ask follow-up questions like, well, tell me about that. What's that look like for you? When? How many people? How's that going to help you in your revenue stream? What expectations do you have for that? And all of a sudden, that empty cup is filling up. And the more I know about you, the more I can help. Not just from what we do, but all these connections that I have.
Sure.
It's like, oh, so do you need help? Would you like to meet somebody that does this or this or this or this? I can make those connections.
Yeah.
Again, actively listening, knowing more about the people that I deal with, then I become more and more indispensable.
Love that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's such a great picture for your mind of, just like visualizing an empty cup. I love that. Last question for you. Where should people find you? Where can people find you? Where can they reach out to you if they've seen this and like, man, I got to talk to Mike. I'm worried about my company.
Call me. My cell phone is 843-364-6575, or they can email me at mike.snively@expertip.net.
There you go. Again, Mike, this has been fun. I appreciate you sharing everything you've learned.
I appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just appreciate, even we've had a couple of coffees, coffees together. You came and toured the studio, and it's just been cool just to get to know you. And you've added value to my life, and I appreciate all the ways you just invested in me, and you definitely filled my cup. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Mike.